I don't think when I started the first company, again, I've said this many times, I don't think I had any context what starting a company even meant, right? And I didn't have any perspective for it, but I did it anyway, right? And I jumped in the middle of this thing, doing this thing that was very difficult. I didn't have any concept for how difficult it would be either. But I don't know. Yeah, I'd love to say that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I can't say that. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur. I don't even think I knew what that word probably meant when I was 25 years old. Why I started, and then you just start learning, and why I stuck to it. I don't know. That's a good one because I should have just been happy at making $45,000 a year at 23 years old, 24 years old, right? When I got that salary. But I was like, again, but my son being born was a big wake up for me just to look at the world differently and go try something else. So maybe that played into it. I don't know. The fear of trying something new and the fear of being wrong holds a lot of people back from going and doing, what they think they're capable of doing. And it's not fear in the classic sense that you heard a noise downstairs when you wake up at night and somebody's in the kitchen. It's just this innate built-in survival fear that says, I got this job and this is all I can do. There's also a self-esteem or a self-assuredness part that goes with it. I'd lived through so much that I clearly had a fat account of, look, I can survive whatever anybody throws at me. So I'm going to go, try this thing that I have no idea whether or not it'll work. A lot of things go into. I wasn't worried about being wrong, so again, I had to go out and hunt things that were outside of what I had hunted before. All of that plays into it, but I got to think about this in more detail and kind of try to think about where my head was at the time to do something. It's like everything else, though. It's not monumental to me, like we were talking about yesterday, right? So I don't give it any thought. I don't give anything any thought, really, because things aren't monumental to me, but they are monumental. So in that context, $4 million a year, and you'll never run into an entrepreneur who goes, what? He did what? How? When? But to me, I just went to work. Legitimately getting a job at 27 years old or 29 years old, like what Jake's doing or what Aaron's doing, or my sons are going in the military, or even what Matt's doing. Compared to having kids, that's the easiest stuff in the world. That's not even, you're just taking care of yourself. You just got your own bills to take care of. I'm not denigrating that. I'm saying that the true release, the true encapsulation of finding what you're capable of comes from having kids, and we run from it, right? Our children do now, and I'm saying broadly speaking, socially, society-wise, so much so that then an achievement is simply getting a job in another state and going and moving to it, right? Which in the context of having kids and raising a family, that's minuscule to being responsible for what an infant puts in its mouth every single day. And so I know I'm a broken record. So when you recognize it from your perspective now, you came out and stayed with me 10 years ago and we started going and doing things and working together, and you got a perspective, all of a sudden your brain's like, oh, I see that. I feel that because I came from this hard thing, but I've got this foundation that has kids, and in that foundation now, I see what's possible. And I don't think it's possible to see what's possible unless you have children. Doesn't mean it's impossible to get up where people want to go. But this idea that anything we do in life, even with like what Jake's doing, right? Even with what Matt did and going to New York and doing all of that in the context of having children and doing all of those things, now you're somebody I want to talk to. Now you know something more than everybody else, because I can find a million people that went and started a job and went and did this thing or went and did that thing or moved to this state or moved to that city or whatever it is, right? How many people can you find that did it while they had children? And then how did they pull that off, right? And I'll bet you if we find those people, they're far more successful more regularly than they are the guys that are doing it for themselves or, them and their wife are just on their own. So It doesn't mean having kids is going to blow up your success rate, right? But I think it definitely adds to it, and it unlocks truly what you're capable of in a way that really nothing else does. I just think that that's a critical part. And again, for me, if you ask me where I forget when we were talking earlier, Steve, before we came on this, we started recording, is that really I was happy doing $45,000 a year as a salary at 25 years old, but then Tristan was born. Right. So if you ask me, why did I go? Because I wanted more for my son. Why did I go become an entrepreneur? I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I'm sure I didn't know what that word meant when I was 20 years old, 25 years old. But when Tristan was born, it's like, I got to have it. I have to have it. And the world just looks way differently when you go through that. And my eyes were opened up because I was in that position and I got that work that came across my desk. Would your eyes have opened up the same way, Steve, if you would have had the same offer? I don't know, right? It's hard to say, but you would have certainly looked at it with a different set of eyes post even your first child than you would pre-child. I think too that I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of weeks, that we congratulate ourselves for things we never really did that aren't worth congratulating, right? I think that social media has built people up to be something that it should not be looked at in any way other than just people living a normal life. And then we look at that like that's some event. Kind of back to the advice I gave Jake when he got promoted. I was like, good, great, but of course you got promoted. What the fuck else are you doing at work? Right? What's the point? But that you're going to do it better than everybody else and get promoted up to this next level, and they expect you to go do this thing at 6 months. But in a vacuum, this is the world we live in now, where something as minimal as that, and I'm not downplaying it, but y'all get my point here. We got to have real talk. It's not a big deal because, okay, you learn to walk, right? I think the example I gave him is, you were 6 years old when you made your first layup. What was your layup when you were 12? It's meaningless, right? Because you've done a billion of them. And so in that context, I always had a view that was way up here. This is what I was going to do. I don't know how I was going to buy that car. I don't know how I was going to own those homes. I had no concept for that. But I knew that whatever I was, I wanted more. When I was 11, I wanted to go work at IHOP because they paid me more money and would let me work for 2 days instead of 1 day. Right? Where's that come from? And then pretty soon I'm working at Safeway full time, and I'm working at McDonald's. And, then every job I moved to a new job that would pay me more money and give me more skills. And so it was always that no, you're not the best fry, vat switcher person, whatever the word is for that. Of course I was. So when they patted me on the back and said, you did it in 45 minutes, I go, what are you talking about? And they'd say, well, it takes everybody else 2.5 hours. I said, well, they're retarded, right? And then how didn't you burn yourself? And I'd say, of course I burnt myself. What? I'm not a pussy. Why would I tell you I burnt myself? What are you talking about? The strap broke on the second story. I'm in a dumpster. The dumpster drops me out on the cement floor. The dumpster hits me on my belt and breaks my back. And what do? I put the dumpster. People are looking, man. Somebody's going to see me. I put the dumpster back on and I ratchet it back in, and I get back inside of the dumpster. I put it back up, and I worked for 13 more months before I had surgery because I got to eat. Right? So it's not this, hey, I got to go home and tell everybody that I did this great thing, right? Because the expectation was, of course, I'm going to get back up. And of course, I'm going to put it back on there. It's only as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool, right? But of course, I'm going to do that, because what else would I do? What else would I do when I pull a screwdriver out of my back? That's just, you got to go to work on Monday. So that personality, by the time you get to somebody offers you this deal at 28 years old, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. Of course, I'm going to go do that, because it's already bred into me that I expect so much more out of myself than everybody else around me was doing it. It's a faith in myself for sure. I always think I was going to come out on top. And the more I'm thinking, I like this conversation because I haven't really thought about it in this context. But then my son was born. And when my son was born, all of those things that I just touched on, all stories everybody's heard before, brought into focus now this need to succeed, not just for myself. Again, at $45,000 a year, I own my own house now for 8 years. I had a car, a truck, a Toyota pickup truck that was a new truck. I never even, had no idea what that was about. I had air conditioning, for the love of God. I was putting a second story on my house. I had the dream, if you will. I had everything coming my way. I had success, if you'll put it that way. And then my son was born. And I was like, oh, I see. It's not success for me. It's success multiple levels up. And that focus just drove me to go, okay, I had my sights were set too low. I need to set my sights much, much higher. How do I do that? I don't know, but I got to go put myself in situations that will make that a reality for me. I think if I hadn't have done it the way I done it, I would have gone and done it another way, right? I would have just continued to push because that all of that experience then got unlocked when I got my son. And that's when Tristan was born. And that's why I think that we all should seriously, as men, set our expectations so high that they're almost unreachable, so much so that when we get to any kind of level, that we achieve any kind of level, it is I'm 1,000 feet up. I've got 2,000 more feet of El Capitan to go. I'm not going to get too excited, right? Because I've still got the most dangerous part yet, whatever that trek is, where you got to go from the right to the left they talk about. And, there's this thing in El Capitan, if y'all have ever watched Free Solo, which I don't recommend you do because it made me sick and I sweated the entire time. But, where they got to go and they have to make the move this way. And so the hard stuff was still there. Alex Honnold had already set the record by getting 1,000 feet as fast as he did with no ropes and no nothing, but he hadn't done anything yet. Right? Who's going to remember the dude that went 1,000 feet faster than anybody else and still has 2,000 feet to go? Nobody, right? In a way, you could say losers do. And our society has created all of these men that celebrate small things. Go do big goddamn things and aim for off the charts more than you can imagine, so that when you get a little win, it's like, hey, Pops, I did this thing. Hey, Jerry, nice job. Pat myself on the back. And then, where's the next dragon? Because I got the little one. I got to go get the big one. I think that plays a big part of it. And I'm free flowing here, chain of consciousness, how I approach and look at the world, trying to pass that along to everyone else. Again, in the sauna today, I did a video about it. The dude's like, did you just come off the road? Because I was soaking wet when I went in the sauna. I was like, yeah. He's like, what's the heat index? And I track it all. It's 107 degrees. I did 5 miles. Today's my day off. I did 5 miles in 170 degrees. Farmer carries, some shoulder work, some dead hangs, and then out for 5 miles. And he said, I thought you do 4. I said, yeah, but it's my day off. So that requires 5. And he's like, it's 107 degrees. He said, it would kill me. I was like, I know, that's why I go. He didn't get that I said, that's why I go. He didn't get it. And I didn't say it in a way that would insult him, right? I said it in a way, yeah, that's why I go. As opposed to, yeah, that's why you are who you are and I am who I am. But again, I'm gauging myself against myself because I don't have anybody else to gauge myself against, because who comes from this background and has got where I've gotten. Now I have levels I want to get to and things I want to do. But at the same time, I look at it and go, yeah, I know I don't like going out in 107 degree heat index. And what is it? Humidity has got to be freaking 85%. Man, it's brutal out there. But it's hard. But I'd rather go at 7 o'clock in the morning. We don't understand what work-life balance is, but the feminized society that we live in wants to force that down our throats so they can underachieve, right? If you go do it, then you're making us all, dude, slow down. You're making us all look bad, man. If you're going to go to work and slay, okay, my wife might hold that baby in her arms, but look over at you across the street and go, what's with that dude? Right? Wait. No, I want you here. But what's that dude doing? Right? So you got to run out there and kind of go, dude, chill out, man. You're making us all look bad. But you don't say making us all look bad, right? You say, what kind of asshole are you that goes to work when you got a wife at home and a brand new baby, right? And that's where I go, dude, you do you. I just know how to find success. I just got some great role models like my dad and my uncle. I'm talking about you guys, right? Or this guy I heard online. These two dudes got all these kids, and the kids are in their lives every day. And these guys done fantastically well. And yet they're telling me this is how they did it, which is how all of human history did it. So you quit trying to pull me back. You quit trying to hold me down. You quit trying to make me live by your standards, because I'm going to live by this set of standards. And then we'll see what the outcome is. Because again, I have examples. So beat the example, and then I'll follow yours. But the reality is you can't, because Steve and we've got receipts. Where's the receipts? Burnout. I guess the second most question I get asked is burnout. I'm jealous that that he has the story to tell that he was in an attic doing 107 degrees. I'm jealous of that. Right? I don't see that myself. I'd look at that. What'd you do today? Put an air conditioning unit in an attic. What'd you do? Yeah, it's like, it was 106 degrees in the attic. I myself wouldn't even add that. I just like put an air conditioner system in, because of course I was in an attic and it's 160 degrees. But I'm a dude, and my forefathers fought battles in the middle of deserts. And bitches didn't cry like we do, right? You didn't do anything. You can do the burnout program. You can even do it and have some success. But if you're trying to get somewhere, or if you're me, and I'm working in the same corporate environment you are, you don't want to work against me. You don't want to work against me. You don't want to have me on the same floor as you, because I'm going to make you look bad, right? So you do your thing. That's fine. I'm just saying this is what I would do. I'll never forget the job I had where two people called in sick, and I went to them. I was working in a cabinet warehouse, and two people called in sick on the line, and I went to the boss, and I was like, I got them covered, man. I had to cover them for the rest of the day, because they called in sick. So I did all three jobs, and I went to the owner, or the boss up front, wasn't the owner, up front. And I was like, hey man, I don't know why you need them dudes. I didn't know I was doing this. So Steve, back to where we started earlier, instinctively, I don't know where this came from, but I went to him. I was like, I can do all three jobs. I've told this story before, but I'll do all three jobs, not pay me their money, right? Because I was already there. So it's not when I'm there how little I can do. It's when I'm there, how much can I do? Because I've agreed to be there for an amount of money. So if I do 10 times what the other people are doing, I'm not doing 10 times what other people are doing. I'm doing as much of what I can do, because I gauge myself against myself and not everybody else. Everybody else in society looks, that dude's getting over, he's standing against the wall while I'm working. This is bullshit. I don't know what that means, because I'm like, what's he do? Can I do his job? That dude's just standing there, so I'm going to go do his work. I guess just to wrap this whole conversation up is if you don't like the way that I look at the world, then I'm not for you. But I would encourage anybody to evaluate the outcomes against the outcomes that you see from people who have done it a different way or have a different perspective, and then look at it honestly as you can and say whether or not the things that I have you want. And if the things that I have you want, then come back and we'll talk more about my way of looking at the world. But they're going to say it's not PC and all these other terms that they've made up. Again, that same Ivy League lesbian made up the terms that then society has to live by. And it just, I fine, great. The more of you that do that, the less competition there is for the rest of us.